Working on the paint of the truck today. As you can see, the hood in particular is quite bad. It's also dirty right now, but it's quite bad. And I've started on just this little piece here. You can see the difference, and it's pretty significant. And what I'm doing very simply is I'm cleaning it first. I'm cleaning it with foaming glass cleaner. It works really good. Just use foaming glass cleaner and paper towels, and keep on working it. Let it sit. So spray it on. Let it sit. It loosens up the dirt. And then you just take a paper towel and you just wipe it. You don't press hard. You don't scratch the paint. Just wipe it. And it'll take the dirt off, and it cleans it just as good as washing it outside, maybe better. Yeah, maybe better. I don't know if I'd do this on a brand new paint job, but on a truck, 1980 truck with the original paint, it looks pretty good. It's a little bit wet from the stuff, so it looks great just cleaning it. The reality is it's not so great just cleaning it, but it's gonna be. I'm drying it off now, and you can see how it's dulling up as soon as it's dry compared to this, right? You can see the difference. So here's what I'm using. I got this stuff at Napa. It's liquid, and it seems to be really good. Typically, I use this stuff, which is also good. You get this at AutoZone, Walmart. But so far, I've only been using it a few minutes. This stuff seems crazy good. I'm applying it by hand, using both a swirling motion and a back and forth. And I think I'm going to do the hood twice, just to make sure there's no squirrel marks. But I mean, this looks pretty good. There's a little bit here where I need to redo. I might try a buffer. I've got a buffer on it. Just being a little careful with this stuff until I'm familiar with it before I try a buffer. But I'm going to keep going, and I'll let you know how it comes out. So I've got this side clean. You can tell, you can see the light in it now, so it's clean, just with the foaming glass cleaner. Haven't touched it yet with any of the compound. This is what it looks like with the compound on it. Probably a good check is the light. So there's the light on the area of compound. You can almost see the individual tubes. Then you go over here and you can see it's completely blurred. You don't see any tubes or anything. See the difference? So I'm going to try the buffer. This is just a cheapo I got at Walmart. I think I paid $20 for it. I'm going to try it, see how it works out. Comes with a foam pad, which is what you want to do if you're doing compound. A foam pad is better than cloth. So I'm going to try it out and let you know how it works. I'm going to try to get this on camera as best I can. Little compound on the pad, not the paint, and just swish it around a bit. And then you don't put any pressure on the buffer. You just let it do the job on its own. Do small parts at a time. Don't try to do a big area. And you just work it in until the polish, the compound is gone. I used a little too much compound on this pad. That's okay. You can see the compound starting to disappear. Be careful with this. I mean, you can take a lot of paint off when you don't want to. You can see I've taken some off, but not too much. There's still quite a bit of compound on the paint, but I put a little too much on, which is why there's some still on the paint. So let's see how it looks. Just using a terry cloth, the rougher side of the terry cloth, to take the compound off. This isn't wax. This isn't, you know, you're not treating this like a wax job, because it's not. You're actually cutting the paint a little bit. So you don't have to wait till like the wax dries and gets white. You're not doing that here. Let's see how it looks. Looks good. I would say it doesn't look great, but it probably will when I'm not holding the camera. It'd be real interesting to see when I do up here how the light looks. So I'm going to do that next without holding the camera this time, but the same thing I've been doing. All right, let's see how the other half did. It's better. You can see the edges of the tubes, but it's not as nice. Interesting. Not sure why that is. Done this a couple of times. Looks like I need to do it a little bit more. The top of this hood just seems to be really damaged, so I'm going to go at it again. All right, I've done the middle again. Now you can see the light, you can see the edge of the tubes. I move over, you see the edge of the tubes. Not as nicely, but you can see them. So it's coming around. This is a lot of work, but it already looks worlds better than it does. I don't know how much of this shows up on camera, but it looks a lot better. So the next step is to hit it with some wax. You can't leave it like this. The paint is bare at this point. So you have to wax it to protect it, and the wax will bring out a little more shine. A couple of things of note. Watch out for edges with the buffer. I usually do the edges by hand because you can burn out the paint quickly. So watch out for that. Make sure everything's super clean. Make sure that the surface is cool. It's cold here today, so the surface has been nice and cool throughout this, which is great. But if you're in a hot climate, be very, very careful. If the surface overheats, you'll ruin it. But you see how to do it. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to keep going on it and see where we get. Now I'm following it up with some wax. I've done as much as I'm going to do today. It looks good. Certainly looks way better than it did. I'm using this Meguiar's stuff, this Carnauba Wax, because it protects well. But I don't endorse them or anything like that. Honestly, I found it in a estate sale for $1. But I do happen to like it. It works well. So I'm just putting it on with a soft cloth and letting it dry. I haven't done this area yet. But let's see what it looks like when the wax is dried and removed. Wax is dry. Now you just take a terry cloth, and it should wipe off easy unless you put too much on. It should wipe off real easy. And it looks really good. The light in here almost makes it look like it's got some haze, but it actually doesn't. It looks really good. I'm pretty excited. You can see the tubes now, much more pronounced. It's still on the left side here, it's better, but the right side's really come along. It's looking much, much better than it was. I'm happy with it. For a car that's been sitting outside for nearly 21 years, for a truck that's been sitting outside for nearly 21 years and hadn't been waxed at least in that long, been under a tree and all other kinds of nonsense. This looks really good. And again, that white haze you're seeing isn't actually there. It's just the lighting in here. It actually looks more like this. Yeah, it just isn't coming out good in the camera as to how this looks. But it looks good. I mean, look at that metallic that's in there. It looks excellent. So I'm happy with it. So that's first step. The hood is done. Have to do the sides and all that. It's a lot of work, so I'm not going to tackle that today. But this is the worst part, right? The hood and the roof are the worst part because that's where most of the sun is and all the debris from trees and all that. So as good as this hood looks, the rest of it's going to look even better. Still going on the paint. You can see where I've in the middle of doing the cutting compound here. I'm going to move on to the bottom, more lower part of the panel here. You can see that there's quite a lot of haze in this panel. So I'm going to see what happens. I mean, I can barely see myself in this panel. I can see what happens when I'm done with it. Unfortunately, dropping my buffer doesn't help me get there quicker. So I'm just going to put some material on my buffer pad. A little too much, again. And then just kind of smear it around a bit, like that. And then I'm going to go after it with the buffer. So let me get this thing plugged in. Doing stuff while holding a phone is never that easy. Pardon the crappy video here while I get this thing plugged in. Okay, it's plugged in. So I'm going to try to do this while holding the phone. Okay, that didn't work too good. Let's give it a try again. I think you can see this pretty well. Just put the pad on there and don't apply any pressure. Just let it walk around. Spread out the material. Careful of the edges. You don't need a lot of material. Cutting compound. I've actually got a little too much on here, but that's okay. This is a big panel and I can switch it around. This thing is called a palm buffer, so it kind of fits in the palm of your hand. I'm not holding it exactly right because I have to hold the phone. You kind of grip it from the side, but you get the idea. You're just distributing the compound and letting the buffer do the work. This is an orbital buffer, but it's not dual action. It's not rotating on its axis. So this is not a high dollar piece. I think I paid $20, as I said earlier, at Walmart, something like that. But you get the idea. So I'm just going to do this for a minute, then move on to the next panel. There's no question you're going to have some areas that it's just not a good spot for the buffer. See this ridge in here, trying to get the buffer in here. It's just not a good spot for it. But that's not a problem. You can do it by hand. All you need to do is get a regular polishing pad, something like that. Put some cutter on it and do it by hand. Foam pad would be even better, but this is what I've got right now. So, a little material on it. And there we go. Back and forth is fine. Again, this is not like doing a wax job. You don't just touch it once and stop. You got to go over it a few times because you're cutting the old paint. Depending on how bad your paint is, it matters how much you actually do this. You can see the material is starting to disappear. So I've done this enough for the condition of the paint. The condition of the paint is actually remarkably good. I just sometimes when I look at this as I'm buffing it and polishing it, I think, how in the world did this thing sit under a tree for nearly 21 years? I just don't see it, yet I know it was. This must be some incredible paint. Looks like the original Ford color, so it's probably the original Ford paint from 1980. I had a Bronco that was this exact same color from 82. I'm pretty sure this is the factory color. And it's amazing, really amazing how it's held up. And my Bronco was the same deal. That is sat under a tree, but for far less time. And that paint came back to showroom. This won't, obviously, and I don't need it to, but it's going to look respectable. Okay, so side of this is done. Again, it looks pretty bad because you've got cutting compound all over the place. Someplace bare, someplace not, but that's okay. I've done it all. Now I'm going to do this top edge by hand, and then I'm going to take it all off, wax it, take that off, and I'll show you how it looks when I'm done. All right, before I finish this, I had to show you. This is indicative of what we've got here. That's real easy to see even on camera. So that's after cutting it, and this is the top of the bed, so I'm doing it by hand. This is the part that's been cut. This is the part that's not. Look at that. It's shocking. Now this is clean. I already cleaned it with the glass cleaner. So it's not dirt you're seeing. That's actually the difference in the finish. Now I haven't waxed this yet. This piece is only cut. So I'm super excited with how this thing's going to look. So that gives you an example of some of the results you can see. Here's an even better shot. The light is just perfect for you to see this. To the right is where I've just buffed by hand. To the left is where I haven't done yet. So I've got a mess on here of buffing compound, like I showed you before. Some spaces bare, some spaces not. Don't worry about that. I'm not super skilled at this, so it should be more clean than this, but it doesn't matter. All you have to do is wipe it off. All right, it comes off pretty easy. Just wipe it off. Again, this isn't wax you're dealing with, so you don't need to let it sit on here any amount of time or anything like that. Just wipe it off. When you're doing this, watch out for things like pinstriping. You can take it off. This stuff has been real good. Pinstriping hasn't come off for the most part, so that's cool. But it can. The buffer can take it off, so be careful. So I'm just going to get all of this compound off of here. You may have to change rags if you're doing a big truck like this. You may have to change rags along the way in order to make it easier to take off. But I'm going to get all this off, then I'm going to wax it. All right, here we go. Here's the finished product. Look at that sparkle. On camera, this is just not going to do it justice. But if you look at the reflection of the drop light in the paint, look at how clear that reflection is. I mean, you can see there's words printed on the back of the drop light. I mean, it's crazy. Look at that. Amazing, amazing. So I'll do a quick walk around for you. The whole truck is done. There's rust, of course. There's going to be spots like here that don't look perfect, but the truck itself looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's see if I can get this cord around here without causing any problems. So look at this finish. Try to give you the best light angle you can. Look at that. I mean, you can see gas can on the floor reflecting off the paint. That's a lawnmower battery to the left. And that's how clear this paint job is. These things are, 2 to 3 feet away from the paint, and you can see them reflecting the paint. And this is crazy, really crazy. Look at how good this looks. Wow. And I've showed you exactly what I did. No tricks. Use that Napa buffing compound, but you can use the Meguiar's as well. Buff some of it by hand, some of it with the buffer. And this is what you get. This paint was in really bad shape, particularly this hood. And it's come back really, really nice. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But it looks every bit as good as I thought it would. when I first picked this truck up. And if you haven't watched those videos, the series before this, check it out. And you can see when I wash it how the paint looks like it can be saved. And sure enough, it can be saved. It looks fantastic. I'm really excited. Again, it's not a showroom finish, not expected to be a showroom finish. This truck was left for dead and probably going to end up in the junkyard if I didn't grab it. And here it is. It's running, it's driving, it looks nice, and there's more to come. I'm going to be working on the interior next. Still got some mechanical things to do, so this is going to be a nice little series. Please subscribe if you haven't. You'll be kept up to date of what I do with this thing. But basically, that's how to do it. That's how to cut, buff, and wax your finish to make it like new. Once you're done, if you happen to find a missed spot, just grab the buffing compound and hit it by hand, that one spot, and then wax over that spot, and you're done. And that's about it. That's really sums it all up. Again, I'll do a quick walk around, which I love doing because it looks so good. This 1980 has the old style hood where it says Ford on the hood. I think it's much more cool than when they went to the blue oval. I think in 82 and up they don't do that anymore. I've got this piece already, so I'll be putting that in once I fix the fender. That obviously needs to get done. But I mean, look at the color there. Amazing. There's a little bit of green in this blue, and it just looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, super excited, super happy with how it came out. It's a lot of work. This has been, I don't know, probably 5 hours of work. Looks like I got some wax here that I didn't get all the way off. That's what that is. It's probably about 5 hours of work. This is a huge truck, so it took a while to do. But it's a great workout. Some people use their Pelotons. I'll take this truck any day. Anyway, have a good day. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.